Elena, good afternoon. I see your responses to the second contextual lesson. Let's take a look at what you've come up with. I understand that these are the lessons you have already refined. Okay, so the power of voice as sound affects the perception of you and your business. How does voice influence expertise? Why are you not being bought? Analysis of typical speech errors and so on. Check the readiness of the voice for a large audience. Look, the first lesson is actually the most important. Here we usually have two strategies. The first one is define. That is, in each lesson, we need to ensure that the person achieves some kind of mini result. And here is the very first lesson, which is important for selling the idea of watching the next lessons. The second, third, and fourth in the series. So here we either create some kind of tool right away, like I have, or we provide a tool. Alternatively, we even have three options here. Either we are just simply analyzing typical and common speech errors. The only thing that is better to add here is digitization. That is, for example, 5 typical speech errors, yes, and we will go through them one by one. Our task is for people to relate themselves to these mistakes like in a checklist and say, yes, I have this, this, and this. This is about me, so I need to do something about it. In other words, through self-identification with common mistakes, they should realize that they also have these issues and that they need to address them. In other words, their understanding of the norm is, let's say, not the norm. If they are used to sounding this way, then something is off here. Or it's actually this third option. You already have this thing. Check your voice readiness for a large audience. This is really very key. It's very interesting and important. Determine what level you are currently at. Currently. This is the main phrase that we usually incorporate into the first lesson. Determine at what stage of development your voice is or how ready it is to sound. Not just good, but perhaps for a large audience. Because if we are working with beginners, it can cause a kind of fear. And here perhaps we should still soften this intensity, this boiling point a little. And not just for a large audience, but simply to check and determine at what level your voice is, how ready it is to work online. It could be either this way, yes, or online, or offline. In other words, to go in a certain direction. And about a large audience, when I read about a large audience, my own heart starts to... Although I gathered hundreds of people online, especially earlier when we were working with such direct launches. Of course, I have performed offline, but it still usually causes some internal discomfort. Therefore, when I read to a large audience, I immediately feel like this. And I kind of feel stuck, and I don't want to go there, yes, because there is a certain fear. So here too, it is necessary to approach very gently. The wording of the offer should be soft enough so that a person feels comfortable and is generally inclined to come in. And then we are already there. Somewhere in the lessons we say that this is indeed precisely the key moment for eventually speaking to a very large audience. Actually, because, well, both online and offline, I look at myself, yes, I remember those moments when I go live and I have, well, more than 300 people tuning in. Yes, at that moment there are 300 people watching me live and I feel like... I think the main thing for me is not to focus on the numbers, since I can't see them, but there are moments when I even imagine what my reaction would be if I had 1,000 people there. But there is still some internal discomfort when you realize that you have a stadium full of people watching you. Even 300 people. Well, that's a lot. It really is. I mean, if you gather 300 people offline, well, that's a huge crowd. So, I will assume that such fear exists in many people. Therefore, even in the way we phrase it, it's better to be very careful, you know? I mean, even though we say that we want to perform offline, yes, but we are probably not ready for it to be a large audience. Therefore, this point B, wherever it is and whenever, is better not to broadcast at the beginning. Yes, that is, to gently avoid it all. So, okay, this is the first one, well, the most important one, so we place a very serious emphasis on it. The technique of confident speaking, overcoming fear, attracting clients, how to overcome fear and start attracting, well, look, fear, fear, fear. I'm already scared. It seems like I should, but I'm starting to feel tense. So, honestly, I try to avoid words that are scary. There are, of course, niches where it's necessary to trigger them, because otherwise people do not understand. But if it is still a conscious B2B audience, meaning an entrepreneurial audience, then I prefer to work through point B, that is, the result that people ultimately achieve. How to start attracting clients through voice, through your unique voice, can be written. I will be curious about what a unique or strong voice means, that is, how to create such a voice in order to attract clients. I also have some thoughts on this matter, and I feel like I'm not oriented in this niche. I'm really curious to find out what it is about my voice that seems to resonate with my target audience. So, what is the fear of public speaking, and how can we combat it? Well, you can look it up on Google. So here, look at the title of the lesson. Yes, in terms of context and content, it's basically okay, meaning we are specifically talking about fears. However, while the first lesson focused on speech errors, here we are already transitioning to fears. Maybe we can just make a more comfortable phrasing here, for example, with digitization 3, 5, 10, it doesn't matter how many, any number. I don't know. There are even better ways to overcome the uncertainty of the first performance or something like that. I want to go here. Give me that. I mean, I really like this more. Yes, indeed. The uncertainty of the first step is frightening, because fear itself is scary. The word uncertainty regarding the first performance, whether offline or online, starting from this point, I think it would be more careful. Well, you see, I really love such very careful approaches. Yes, without any hype. That's why I don't hype much myself, and in essence, I don't really write much either. Well, there are, of course, moments when I just can't anymore, but for the most part, I have much more going on than what I actually share. However, I consider that to be hype, and I consciously avoid making hype-driven sales because I don't like it. I'm looking for the audience that I need, the one that needs my services. Well, this audience exists, so I don't even need to create hype, but that's exactly my ideology, yes, about creating a product that sells itself. In other words, I don't need to set up any mega triggers. My marketing is without triggers. Well, practically, of course, there are triggers, but without hard triggers, I would say. So, the third voice as a sales tool, how to properly convey your idea. So, here are exercises that will help improve your voice. Look, there are exercises, for example, 2 or 1 or even 3 exercises that will help improve your voice by 30%. Here, great, so I am already getting something. Yes, I find this interesting. How to effectively convey your idea, or even exercises that can help improve your voice by 30% and assist in properly communicating your idea to potential clients. Yes, great, awesome. So, the fourth point is our general one, which is already clear. That is, we are still selling our general product. Okay, overall, I think it turned out really well. I have different scenarios for people. Here I evaluate it quite well. I like it. There is something to refine. Look, we always focus on 2 points. The first is the most content-driven part, which is the idea of warming up. The first, second, and third lessons. From what to what we lead people. And the second point we pay attention to is the formulation of these offers, so that they are also clear and understandable, allowing the audience to grasp what mini results they will achieve from each lesson, so that it doesn't turn into some Google information that I can just look up and find everything in 3 seconds. I would look at it and it seems pointless for me to go watch the lesson. And when you provide, for example, some digitization, like 3 of something, then, well, it's clear that this is already your opinion on a certain issue. And here, I am more interested in hearing from you rather than going to Google, for instance. All right, let's move on. The third lesson is about the techniques for attracting clients for free. You have 24 hours to complete this lesson as well. Do the tasks, and I will also review them and provide feedback.